The Leafscast is back, and the playoffs is back.
Maple Leafs power play. Riley on the left wing side. Top to Marner again. Top of the circle. On to Matthews. Holds it and deflected by Nylander. Over top of the goal. Another chance for Willie. Another shot stop. Tavares scores!
82 games. 82 games in the bank. What do you guys think?
We're here. We made it. All the roller coaster of the season, ups and downs, led us to this moment. And what a roller coaster it was, even this past week.
That was quite the regular
Crazy.
season. I think I could say for all of us that I'm just glad that it's over. And we're finally especially this past week, I think that this whole Austin Matthews 70-goal thing has gotten a little exhausting, and now it's just we don't have to worry about it. It's over. He didn't get it. It's whatever. I'm sure we'll get into that, but now we could just focus on the playoffs, which is what we're all here to do.
Are we all sounding like exhausted by the chase just because he didn't get it? I mean, like, is that the issue here?
Games actually matter again.
I don't know. I even though 70 is nice, it's just a round number. 69 goals is still amazing. I know 70 was like the big push, and it was kind of fun when the crowd was like, "Oh, he's gonna get it or not." But it's like, I couldn't care less he didn't get the round number. 69 is still.
I think it does actually. It does matter for some reason. Like those round numbers, they mean something. 60 goals, 70 goals, whatever it is. Like if he got to 70, it would have been what everyone's talking about. And the fact that he didn't get there, it's just what a great season for Matthews. Which doesn't. Like, that's an incorrect opinion. You're right, Tim. Like, 69 goals is one goal shy of 70. It should feel almost as substantial. But I do think that number 70 just had a ring to it. And it just won't be remembered quite the same that he got stopped at 69.
Yeah, it is kind of weird that it did have so much drama around it because it was the hype that it'd be the first time somebody scored 70 since I think it was like 92, 93. But even they scored like 76 then. So it's like it's not like we're breaking necessarily like that record. It's still the most goals anybody scored in the Cap era in one season, right? That should be celebrated. It's the best mark since Alex Ovechkin had like 65 in, I think, 2008 or something. So there's not one skater in the NHL that has come within 4 goals of his total this season. I'll still remember it as pretty much the best goal scoring season I've ever seen. Whether it was 70 or not, but 70 would have sounded cool.
It would have sounded real cool. Well, let's get into things here. This is going to be our official playoff preview podcast. We do know that we're facing the big bad Boston Bruins, which I'm sure all of our therapy bills are going to be a little higher this next week or month or however long this goes. But before we get into the playoffs, let's just take a second and look back at the rest of this regular season. Another one is in the books. I'm wondering what has stood out to you guys over this Brad Tree Living regular season. What are some of the big highlights? Maybe even the big lowlights. What do you remember about this season?
I think, obviously Matthews has reached like a new level, but like to me, what kind of stood out, maybe lost in the last bit, but is kind of the emergence of William Nylander as de facto superstar, or at least is now paid like a de facto superstar. I think like he was like an $11.5 million player for us for most of this year, other than like the past 8 games. Once he made it 40 goals, he called it. But he was a force for most of the season.
I would say the thing that stands out the most to me is how much of a roller coaster it's been in terms of how the team has looked despite not changing its makeup as much as past season, right? We talked about it at the beginning of the season where Brad Tree Living, when it came to his free agent signings, he, instead of throwing 40 little darts, he threw 3 or 4, gigantic crossbows at the bullseye and tried to hit a couple of them. And at the beginning of the season, it didn't feel that it was that way. I mean, you listen back to the early pods here, we were furious at pretty much all of these signings where, as it stands right now, the team is good. We finished 3rd in the division, one of the better teams or the best teams in the NHL, a comfortable playoff caliber team, and just looking so much better than we did at the beginning of the season. Again, despite not really changing up the makeup, the guys that are in the lineup for game 1 of the playoffs is mainly the guys that were there at the beginning of the season, at least from the forward group. So yeah, it's like the lack of drama in terms of how many guys came and went, and then the drama from just who was sticking around all year. So different.
I don't know about lack of drama.
There were a few nice little mid-season pickups we got there. Like I don't think any of us had Bobby McMahon as a top 6 forward coming into the beginning of the season, or even Benoit came out to be a nice surprise. He was more of a fringe guy, and now it looks like we can't even field the defense without him and Jake McCabe as like basically our number 1 pair. So there were definitely some nice additions, but it was kind of funny. There's like, it's almost like the tale of two Leafs. There's the first half of the season, which had a really bad Domi and Bertuzzi and Samsonov, and even like Marner wasn't at his height, and then that was outweighed by Nylander being, Nylander, and then there was the second half of the season where like everything kind of flipped, and it'll be very interesting to see which Leafs, as like a whole as well as a microcosm, decide to show up come the playoffs, which we're basically now there, so we won't have to wait very long to figure that out. For me, I think the number 1 storyline outside of Tim, I agree, it's Austin Matthews for sure, but it's just, to me, it's still crazy, the Samsonov drama here of where he was at. He went the full route of Jack Campbell being waived. Every team in the league says no thank you, and now he's probably going to be starting game 1 for the playoffs for us, which is just wild to think about. Like, what was the last team that had a goalie who was waived mid-season, and then that goalie was the team's starter in the playoffs? I would be surprised if it never happened before.
Yeah, you waived your starting goalie. Tim, I can't think of that ever happening.
Was Tristan Jarry waived when he went to the end with Pittsburgh?
I know.
That's the only thing I can think.
Who's Vegas' goalie? Hill? Was that
Aiden Hill?
Aiden Hill.
Yeah,
I think
Aiden
he was
Hill.
waived, not by like the year before he was waived or something, but mid-year. Like,
yeah, they got him for
waived,
free from the Sharks.
Yeah.
I think.
I
mean, it hasn't happened before because it doesn't happen, right? I mean, like, it shouldn't happen. Not to say that like every team was wrong for not claiming him at the time that they did. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I would have, but yeah, it's pretty remarkable the turnaround that he's had. Again, and Tim, when you say like lack of drama, I guess what I mean is like you look at years past, the Samsonov thing, right? If Dubas were the GM, it would have been like Samsonov's been traded, like for like he would have figured out a way to get him out of here. When Ryan Reeves was in the doghouse, he would have figured out a way to get him out of here, just like they did with Jimmy Vesey and Nick Ritchie, and where it was just like we were sitting here on the pod like, this guy's a disaster, and Brad's like, well, he's staying all year, and we're gonna figure it out, So like the persistence, I guess, with the group, second chances. It's the year of second chances, is it not?
Well, if we're gonna get into second chances, we're on about our 4th chance go around with the Boston Bruins here. There's no need to beat around the bush anymore. Let's get into some playoff talk. We're playing the Boston Bruins. Game 7, and now here we are yet again, 2024. 5 years later, I was looking at some of our lineup makeup 5 years ago when we played them last, and we saw Zach Hyman on our top line, centered by Tavares and Marner, and Matthews was on the second line with Kapanen and Janssen. Kadri got suspended. We had Patrick Marleau on the team. It was Hainsey and Riley. It was a very different team the last time we played.
I remember
Boston.
that.
And some time has passed, so I just want to know, you guys, we were expecting Florida for a long time now, and it was last minute turnaround where fate has changed and we play the Bruins again. So where are you guys at mentally and your stability of state and religiously? Where are you at right now with the Leafs in Boston again?
Well,
Man.
Same.
It's like we've become men watching the Leafs play. You go back to, sure, the last time the Leafs played it was 2019. That was 4 years ago. This series has been a part of our life since the Leafs started making the playoffs again in 2013. I cannot believe that we're back here. And then I believe there's still 8 guys remaining on that Boston team that were there in 2019, the last time. So it's not like it's a 100% turnaround. You know, the Leafs have plenty of guys, probably 5. It's got to just be 5. The core 4.
5. We have 5 guys.
Yeah, really.
The 5 you'd expect.
And just like we became men, you know, going up against Boston, they have as well. I mean, and the makeup changes, the teams change, the playoff format does not change, and we're heading back. Like, I'm not scared. I'm ready for this. I'm not ready for the stress of it though. Like, playoff stress is unlike, you know, like there's just general stresses as a part of being human, and sometimes you're sitting there like, man, I'm stressed, but I'm not Leafs in the playoffs stressed. Like, that'll come in April, and it's about to happen, and there's nothing worse than Boston stress.
Well, I think like what's big is like even though we've been playing some meaningful games for a while, of like, oh, Tampa's getting close. Oh, are we getting kind of close to Florida? It's felt like a long time since it's like, this is the big game, and it really matters. Like, I feel like we kind of tell ourselves that throughout the season, like, oh, this is a big game, and then we blow it, or a big game we win. It's like there's like those are bumps in the road. Each like shot on net in the playoffs is the equivalent of one of those games. And it's like it goes for a week or 2 weeks where just every moment is just weighing on your mind of like, oh my goodness, who's repping tonight? Who's gonna ruin my life?
Well, you could see it like this East final race for that last playoff spot was so crazy. That was some of the most entertaining scoreboard watching I think I've ever seen in the NHL. And we had the privilege of playing some of those teams late in the season when they're really making their push. And that Detroit game especially, where you could just see it in their eyes and the way that they play. Like, it was just so different than like the intensity level. And, you know, watching some of the highlights in the games of beyond that with Washington and Pittsburgh, like you don't feel it until you're there. And those teams have been in it for like a month now. And you're right, Tim, like we could tell ourselves or pretend like it's a big game, or if such and such happens, we could catch Florida, or if the worst happens, Tampa could pass us. But we kind of always knew we'd be this third spot. It was unlikely we were going to move anyway. And now we kind of go from basically just playing the last 4 games trying to get Matthews a goal to now we need to put it all on the line, finish your checks, win the game. Like, I don't know how I feel about this first game at Boston, but they've also kind of been sucking it up lately in their last few games. So I guess both teams are coming into it in a similar stance there.
I've really spent the last week though unsure of what I didn't know who I wanted to play, because like, no, I don't really want the Leafs to play Boston round 1, but I don't really want the Leafs to play one either, or Tampa, or I don't know, you know, like I would have felt great if we dropped down and played the Rangers, you know. So even though we've all been scoreboard watching just every other game the last week of like, well, okay, here's the formula. The Leafs win and Florida loses, Boston loses, and then this can happen, and we're watching, and like, I'm not sure what I'm really rooting for, because I didn't want to make the choice. I just wanted them to give me what they gave me, and they've given us Boston. So I'm putting that on the record that I wasn't asking for this.
I think part of the problem, part of the reason why you feel that way is like, I don't know if we're favored against any of those teams, even though like, I mean, we finished ahead of Tampa Bay, and so maybe some of the models put us ahead of them, but it's hard to look at our team and say like, oh, top to bottom we're better, because like the defense is still on the weaker side, goaltending is the weaker side out of all of them, and it's like, can you trust the forwards to make up the difference? And it's, how much do you trust those forwards? It's like, I mean, this is the season of Austin Matthews, and more than any other year, like we always say it, like, if Toronto's best players, the best players in the series, they'll win. But like, this series more than any other ones, Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Mitch Marner, gonna have to carry this team if we want to sniff the second round again.
All right, well, let's get into the forwards a little bit here. I want to spend a little bit of time on all the positions, but in classic Leafscast fashion, we'll start up front and go with the forwards. So I want to get your guys' takes on what both in the forwards and what line combinations you want to see, which will also lead into who's in and who's out. I feel like this year there's a little more, I guess, debate that you can have of who do you think should be in the playoff lineup and what makeup of those forwards should be the first, second, and third lines, fourth line to an extent, but really those top three. Like, as I was kind of going through what I think it should be, I kind of came down to 3 different combinations, and I don't even know which one of those 3 that I want to have. So I'm wondering, really the biggest question is, what do you do on that top line with Austin Matthews? Would you say that, and this is kind of coming to assuming Domi is going to come in and play, which all signs are looking like he will. He missed the last couple games, but he was on the ice skating. So I think that we could safely assume Domi can play. Yarncrook is a little more up in the air, but I think that, like, he was also on the ice skating with Domi today, and I think he'll be in. If not in for game 1, he'll be in somewhere along the series. So let's work under the assumption that both Domi and Yarncrook are going to be healthy. Would you have that top line be the Bertuzzi, Matthews, Domi that we've seen over the past month or so that's worked very well? Or would you go back to Matthews, Marner, and X, probably Bertuzzi? So really it's just Domi or Matthews, or excuse me, Marner on that top line. And where do you guys fall on that debate right now?
I feel that I remember, I think it was the last pod, I wasn't as big of a believer as that Bertuzzi, Domi, Matthews line, but so I am more of a believer now than I was before. Like, even just hearing some of Keith's comments, I wouldn't be surprised if they go with that. But I still think that, like, Austin, Matthews, Marner, and Bertuzzi is the line that we stick in there. Like, I don't even know, like, injuries at this time of year, everyone's team is so cagey, it's ridiculous. So, like, it's hard to judge where Domi is at, but I don't know if they're going to throw him on first line competition, first game back for NHL action. So I think it starts off playoffs. First guys on the ice taking the face off is Matthews with Marner and Bertuzzi.
I strongly disagree,
Yeah,
and I strongly feel that it should be Domi, Matthews, Bertuzzi on the top line. And that's not me saying that I think Domi plays better with Matthews, Marner, and da-da-da-da-da. I'm just saying that line works. If Matthews and Marner together is 100, I think Domi and Matthews together is about a 90. And you put Bertuzzi on there. I think that's the line. I think Marner has made the second line, especially if Bobby McMahon is going to be back, which is up in the air. But if he's on that second line with JT, that's the group that we've seen for the better part of the last month, and the team's been playing some of its best hockey for the better part of the last month. I'm not really sure why you guys feel like it needs to be split up and I know part of that's because Marner was gone, but I'm saying that, like, that top line has worked so well, even though it's not where we envisioned Domi. We really could use him as a center. I love how those guys play together. I love what Domi's able to do. He's able to do the Marner thing, and I think it's going to be really important in this series that we have some mean guys out there on the ice a lot, and if you got Domi on a line with Bertuzzi and Matthews playing, a third of the game, that's I think that's going to be an edge that we can have. So I think it improves our depth to move Marner down. And I just love that first line. I feel so strongly this is what we need to do.
I think I'm actually pretty aligned with Steven here on this one, that I feel pretty strongly that I think it should be Bertuzzi, Matthews, Domi on that top line. And I think the biggest reason why is you're getting the most out of Domi and Bertuzzi having them on that line with Matthews. Like, that is a top NHL line.
Yeah.
That line is performing better than most other teams' top lines in the NHL. And that's a line without Nylander or Marner on it. So the fact that you can do that and either have your second line be Marner, or I guess be Nylander, Tavares, Marner, which is how I would like to have it, or at minimum have like Bobby McMahon or a Nyes on that line and put Nylander on the third line, it just makes your depth so much more dangerous. I was looking at Boston's forwards and defense here, and they have like 3 guys between all of them who they're going to be trying to hard match against Austin Matthews, which means that they have like no one left to defend an all-star second line worth $33 million. So it just seems so tempting to me to say, no matter who's with Matthews, he's going to get, you know, the McAvoy and
that's the mismatch.
Shutdown center would be. They have like no centers on Boston's team.
We will.
But like,
don't cash shade on Charlie Coyle.
It's all going to go to Matthews regardless of who his line mates are. So let's get Marner and Nylander and Tavares out there against other people, and let's get some scoring depth. And Matthews is going to score either way. So I think I'm all in that. But Tim, if you were to have Marner on that top line, which I wouldn't be surprised at all if Keefe ends up going to. I actually think it might be even more likely that happens. But if you were to propose that, would you say Domi is now your third line center, or would you rather see Domi on the wing on either the second or third line and still keep Holmberg as a center?
Here's just one other thing about like the top line, but you guys I don't think are taken into account. The playoffs are a different beast than the regular season. That might be I look at that line, I say it's like a regular season line. Like, it works there, doesn't mean you're going to see like the same level of success in the playoffs where it gets so much harder to score. Like, there's nothing worse than spreading out your talent and have every line almost scoring. Like, put Marner and Matthews together, at least they can get a goal there. That was my thinking is there.
The problem with that though, Tim, is like, we've seen it before where they just put all their eggs in one basket. You have one line who goes out there and can score, and then the rest of the lines go out there and don't score. Like, you're definitely getting zero. You're getting zero offense from our fourth line. Bare minimal, except for David Kampf always scores that important goal. So in one game, David Kampf will score. But like, I just think you need to, like, how could you look at a line that has Nylander, Tavares, Marner on it and say like, that line's not going to score goals? And any line with Austin Matthews, you just had 69 goals this year. How can you say that line's not going to score goals? This isn't the Florida Panthers were like the number 1 defensive team this year. That's not who we're playing. We're playing Boston Bruins, who are like a 10 or 12 or something defensive team.
They're like in the middle of the road.
Yeah, but Boston doesn't play middle of the road when they play us. I've seen it.
You keep saying, you know, like Matthews score top line, right? Matthews scores. Matthews the one that gets the goal. Bertuzzi has like 14 goals in his last 21 games played.
He should be up there with Matthews.
And he had 5 goals and 5 assists in his 7-game series on Boston last year. Like, I'm expecting Bertuzzi to show up and play. So it's really the Bertuzzi and Matthews show with Domi dishing. And Ryan's right that second line is feisty. And I still think too it's the best use of Domi on the Maple Leafs. If you told me that we're throwing Domi out there as our third line center, when you talk about, you know, line matching and like you've had an icing and they're going to roll a line out there, you know, like a line they're going to target on ours, I worry that it would be the Domi at center line because, you know, who he's going to have playing on his wing is like Matthew Nyes and I don't know, not a defensive strength there.
Would you be looking to put Domi at center, Tim, or would you keep Holmberg and put Domi on the wing on a different line?
I would probably keep Holmberg on that third line center and put Domi there. Whether it's like Nicky Robb stays there or whether it's someone else, like we'll see if McMahon comes back. But I agree that Domi being on the top line gets more out of Domi. But like I think that Matthews is best with Marner, and we're gonna need Matthews at his best if we're gonna win this series. And like I look at Boston and say like, they don't have Patrice Bergeron. Like, are they going to have a line that's going to shut down ours? I don't think so. I've seen it happen 12 years in a row, but like maybe not this year. I don't know. Like, McAvoy certainly no slouch, and Lindholm, he's great as well. So it's like they're not maybe the elite shutdown defensemen, but also not pushovers. Like I don't know if we'll see the hard match that we've seen in the years past, but I'm just like thinking,
right? If I feel like we've talked about this in the pod before, but if you rolled out the lines that Ryan and I are suggesting here, right? And Matthews has a rough series, right? They are really getting the best of him. how bad do you think it is? Do you think Matthews can actually get out of this series not scoring like any goals? Is that the floor?
Well, I think it's going to be a very quick series if that doesn't happen.
Well, I think if you rolled that group out there, like I'm not lying or I'm not disagreeing that like he might have a tougher time than if you put Marner on that group, right? It makes it technically a better line. Like I just think Austin Matthews just wrapped up the best goal scoring season since '93, and he's gonna get some goals this series. Like I don't think his floor is 0 goals like when we played I don't know Columbus or whoever it was. Floor is like at least an average Austin Matthews playoff series, and against Boston, which he's had success in the past.
Not this season. This season it's been a rough go against Boston. We'll get to talking about goaltending eventually, but
part of what makes it interesting, like we've had a while now without Yarncrook, and he's kind of like I don't really know where I want to slot him in because he's probably one of our more defensive forwards. So I'm thinking, okay, well if Domi is a center, then I probably want Yarncrook on that line, but I also want Domi on a line that will set up people. I don't know if I want Yarncrook there. I mean, he could shoot, but he's I don't know where he's I don't know. That's why I like Domi with Matthews. Like he just sets the guy up, or even Domi with a Tavares, I guess, or Nylander. But I was kind of thinking like, what if we had like a third line that was like Holmberg at the center with Yarncrook and Bobby McMahon, and then that line all of a sudden has like you're not going to be worried. You could put it out there against Boston's better players like those. That's 3 players that are more defensive and they could still provide some offense. You don't have your Domis, your Bertuzzis, or Nylander on that third line, but it's not the black hole of like a David Kampf-centered third line either. So maybe like a middling, but then I start worried about who's going to be the odd man out. Like we have a lot of good forwards here, and one of like Dewar or Robertson or even Nyes or Holmberg aren't going to be in. So who, or Reeves even, I think that we have like 14 NHL caliber forwards and only 12 of them are going to get in. So who are the 2 forwards that are sitting out for you guys? Steven, you first.
Well, I'm honestly, I haven't been reading every practice report. I'm a little pessimistic that they're just going to throw Calle Yarncrook in like anytime soon. I feel like we would have a better idea if we could anticipate him playing in the playoffs. Like I feel like we were in the same situation. Maybe it was a couple of series ago where it was just like guy coming back. It's been a long time since he's played, right? Throw him back into any sort of significant role in the playoffs. So I could even see him being on the 4th line to start, just to get him kind of ramped back up to speed again. I think the odd man out is Nicky Robb for sure. I think Ryan Reeves is in.
Guy's been a goal-scoring machine.
I know, but I think he's the odd man out. I kind of have a hard time though with this Bobby McMahon not on John Tavares' wing. Like, I totally love this idea, Ryan, that you're talking about with William Nylander alongside John Tavares and Mitch Marner on that second line. But Bobby McMahon's worked so well there that, like, to me, I feel like if he's there, I love it. If he's not, well, I maybe would rather have Nicky Robb on the third line instead of him. I'd rather have Matthew Nyes on the third line instead of him. Is that weird? So I think my odd man out is Calle Yarncrook, and then Bobby McMahon if we're really doing this Nylander on the second line thing.
Tim?
I disagree. On principle. I mean, it is a bit up in the air because
What do you mean? On principle, you disagree with me?
Well, everything you say, I just say like I'm gonna go with the opposite. Take my chances.
You're right.
I have a hard time evaluating the health of these guys. I've already said it. I'm not convinced Domi's going to be 100%. I'm not convinced Yarncrook's going to be 100%. I'm not convinced Bobby McMahon's going to be 100%. So based on all these guys, I do think though, like based on what we've seen, I think Domi is going to be in the lineup on game 1. Yarncrook, I'm maybe most pessimistic about. I know he's had like a rough season with injuries. I wonder if I had to guess right now, I don't think he's in the game 1 lineup. I don't think he's 100% yet. Bobby McMahon, they haven't had good messages about him either. They just said, yeah, the rest of the season he'll be out. Then we'll reevaluate. I think is the latest. But I think if it is healthy and they've been just more cagey about whether he's healthy or not, I think he does make it in. I think he's in ahead of Nick Robertson. It's just like it's game one. It's on the road. I think Nick Robertson comes out as much as I'd like to see him in there. Maybe over like a Connor Dewar. It is hard though. Like a lot of these guys, I think in game one, if we lose, I think it's going to be two different guys come out and two different guys come in. I think Keith's going to throw them in the blender, and
I think it's a clean sweep for me as well that Robertson will be the guy looking at, which is ridiculous because he keeps scoring goals. Like the guy's a goal scoring machine these days.
He got 11 goals or something. Yeah,
and like half of them are in the past month. Like it's crazy how many he's potting in there. But I mean, you said it, Tim. The fact that we're starting on the road, I could just see Boston targeting him, and I could just see Keefe not wanting to have him. Like maybe game 3 he comes in and we shot, or maybe if things go poorly in game 1 we have trouble scoring. But I think he's out. I'm more optimistic that Yarncrook and Bobby McMahon and Domi are all going to be healthy. I think that they just play it extra safe at this time of year and they don't rush things.
Yeah.
McMahon, or rather, Yarncrook just had a hand injury, so it's not like he hasn't been on the treadmill or out skating. Like he's been out doing stuff and keeping fresh. It's just getting game ready to make sure the hands are good. That's keeping him out there. Along with Robertson, I always want to take out Dewar or Dewar. Maybe it's just because he's not flashy. I'd rather have a Nyes or Bobby McMahon in there, and I think Reeves will play. He's big, so I always want to take him out. But like for the same reason I said I want to take Robertson out is the reason I don't want to take Dewar out. Like he's your responsible two-way forward. Like I don't know, and that fourth line of Dewar and Camp and Reeves has actually looked pretty good lately. Reeves got a goal.
Yeah, they've looked all right.
He got a goal. So I'm tentatively going to say Dewar and Robertson get out. We see Nyes on that fourth line. He's looked really good on that fourth line. So that's kind of what I'm going with here.
I know.
Here's what I have. Let me read you what I have as what I think that the game 1 lineup should be here. Bertuzzi, Matthews, Domi, top line. Willie, Tavares, Marner, second line. McMahon, Holmberg, Yarncrook, third line, with Nyes, Camp, and Reeves on the fourth line. That's what I want to see. Robertson and Dewar sitting.
And Gregor.
And, well, yeah, but Gregor's like 15 on the list. That guy can't score. He just gets the puck and instantly shoots. Like, doesn't matter where he is.
He just scored.
Is there really
Florida?
Is it really like 100% for sure Ryan Reeves is playing? Like
100% for sure.
Oh boy, if it's
I mean,
not,
he's played his best hockey of the season recently.
Yeah, but it's Dewar line on the I look at that fourth line then that it's just got this anchor offensively that's not going to be able to do anything. He's not necessarily like, well, yes,
also
but
just
like
scored.
That's true. You're right. I rest my case. I'm saying like like Marchand's not going to fight him. What's his job going to be this series? He's never on the ice for the times that you need that guy.
Well, Pat Maroon's going to fight him.
Ooh, okay. Never mind. All right. Tim, you're right again.
All right, let's take a quick second here and just look at the Boston forwards, because I was looking at their lineup specifically and how they match up with ours. And you have David Pastrnak, who's obviously an unbelievable player, had an unbelievable season. He's responsible for me winning the family hockey pool. I won that, right, Tim?
You did. Well, no, you did not.
Well, I came close. Anyway, Pasternak's there. He's going to go tit for tat with Matthews or Nylander or Marner or any of these guys. But that's where the difference is that, like, if Pastrnak is equal to Austin Matthews in terms of goal production and point production, the next two on the list are Marner and Nylander. And then there's a large drop to the next player on the list. In terms of points and goals and just offensive production, a large drop. I think next is Brad Marchand on that list, and I think around there's Tavares as well. But, I mean, you said it earlier in this podcast, Tim, if the best players in this series are Matthews and Marner, or Matthews and Nylander, or something like that, then the Leafs are going to win. Like we have the edge on that upper echelon talent, especially in center depth. Matthews and Tavares are head and shoulders above Zacha and Coyle, and I don't know how Boston has done so well with those guys as their center, to be honest. So we'll see. Do you guys have any thoughts of the Boston forwards other than Pasternak's good, Marchand's the worst?
Well, I'm just worried about how many goals James Van Riemsdyk is going to score against us in his revenge tour.
Yeah, JVR was there in the 2013 series. Wait, was he? Yes, he definitely was. When I look at Boston's lineup, and I know we roasted them before, and they beat us 4 times this season, but it is staggering at the lack of depth that they have compared to, I think, what the Maple Leafs can offer. And that, again, goes back to why I feel like it makes more sense to drop Marner down and go with a deeper attack, because even if they Matthews and just like put their best guys out there on the Coyle line, we're going to dominate this matchup. I really like to think that the Leafs are going to kill whoever that second is. And it's, you win playoff series with goaltenders, centers, and defensemen. And they've got goaltenders. They've probably got defenders. They do have defenders. We got the centers. And they're so much better. They are so much better. This is probably the biggest variance in any playoff series we've had as far as center talent.
I think you're right, Steven. Like, the most important positions in the game are goalie and center. And we'll get into goalies later, but head and shoulders center strength above them. So we'll see how it goes. All right, Steven, we're going to start talking about your favorite topic. Do you know what it is?
Oh, we're talking about D?
The defense.
I actually have to go.
Steven's favorite.
I'll catch you. Hey, I'll text me when you guys are done with this part of the pod, okay?
Steven's been getting mad at me all week long every time I mentioned the defenseman in the chat. He said, I don't want to talk about D. Well, we're going to talk about D because the listeners want to know, Steven. So I'm going to go to you first. We have about 7 NHL caliber defensemen in no particular order. We have like Riley and Liljegren, McCabe, Edmondson, Benoit, Brody, Lyubushkin. 7 defensemen. One of them will not be playing game 1. Which one is it?
I think it's Brody.
Oh, I bet you would not have predicted that a year ago today.
No, I know, but I think that I think McCabe and Benoit. I think Edmondson and Liljegren is locked, and then it's just is it Riley and Lyubushkin or Riley and Brody? I'm not necessarily saying what I think. I don't know what I think because I don't like talking about the defense, but I think it's Riley Lyubushkin, who again hasn't looked that great, but neither has Brody, and I think Keith can favor Lyubushkin for round 1.
I disagree.
On principle?
I think Lyubushkin.
This is a general theme we're going on here.
Have we ever disagreed?
I mean, I was enjoying.
Boston's tearing us apart. Come on.
I was enjoying our last pod. Steven wasn't here. No one was there to disagree with me. I think Lyubushkin is the one that sits. I think, not to take the words from Mike Babcock, if two guys are comparable, tie goes to the veteran. TJ Brody, guy scored a goal tonight. He's hot. You're going to take him out of the lineup after his crowning achievement of the season? Give me a break.
Would you agree, Tim, with Steven's... Like, Steven, more or less... I would say I agree with Steven that, like, Benoit McCabe is going to be a pair. Edmondson Liljegren is going to be a pair. So it's between Riley Brody or Riley Lyubushkin. Is that what you're thinking as well, Tim?
Yeah, I think we're going to see Riley Brody. Even though I know that's been a bit of a rocky season this year for them, I think that's where he's going to go back to the well. Going to see, like, you know what? Playoff Morgan Riley was unlocked with TJ Brody at his side. Hopefully, playoff Morgan Riley emerges again. But I think we'll see. Like, I know we have a lot of focus this year has been on, like, the grid of, like, Indomi and Reeves and Bertuzzi and Edmondson, like, and Benoit. Like, we have all these guys that have some snarl to them. I would think there's diminishing returns to then also having Lyubushkin, who like we already have a few defensemen where like they're great until the puck is on their stick, and then you kind of hold your breath. So it's like I not, and maybe I'm being too harsh on Lyubushkin. Like, I think if game 1 doesn't go our way, like I think he comes in like he is a serviceable NHL defenseman. But for game one, I don't think you sit your veteran TJ Brody.
I do agree with Tim that I think it will be Brody that's in game one, but I do agree with Steven that if it were me making decisions, I would put Lyubushkin in over TJ Brody. And it is tough because Brody's been so good and he is the veteran, and you'd think that when it really comes and really matters and it counts, who's the defenseman you want out there? It's TJ Brody. But here's the thing. You say that there's diminishing returns about having that kind of player out there. They're on three different, like, to me, we have three defensemen who fit that bill. It's Lyubushkin, it's Benoit, and it's Edmondson. And those guys are playing three different lines, which means every single shift, we're going to have a defenseman out there who's making the Bruins' life miserable. And there's nothing I enjoy more in this world than making the Bruins' life miserable to.
Amen to that. Don't forget Jake McCabe. When his face isn't bleeding, he's a tough customer.
No, that you are right. That is true. But he's already on a line with Benoit.
Yeah, you remember when he got Brad Marchand in the face at like the start of the last game that we played with them?
Yeah, it's
Extend him.
I was thinking about that actually earlier today, and I'm worried Brad Marchand will just bait us into a lot of penalties, and our penalty kill is not good, and that could not be good. I was thinking about that today.
He baited people into the third. He drew the third most penalties in the league this year.
Did he really? How come?
Yeah.
We have what's his name now on Pittsburgh?
Bunting.
How come we have Bunting, who's like draws the most penalties, and then the refs are like, you know what? We're tired of being embarrassed by this loser, and we're gonna stop calling his penalties, and they just stopped it. Brad Marchand's been doing this for like 15 years. Why do the refs still give him these calls?
I don't know, man. I'm not about it.
Don't try and understand it.
All right,
Tim, you say the tie goes to the veteran. I thought the tie goes to defenseman that you traded a third-round pick and retained salary. Like, did we really do that to put Lyubushkin in the plus for round one?
What was it? Was it last year or the year before we traded a third-round pick for Big Save Dave and just rode the pine the whole time?
Yeah, but he was so bad. He was so bad.
That's just what I say. Like, don't trust these GMs. Don't the sunk cost fallacy. Don't look what you paid. Look at the roster you have now, and you go.
You're right. You're right.
It would be kind of It would be kind of interesting to know how much sway Tree Living has at this part of the season. Like, obviously, Tree Living wants Reeves in there, and he wants Lyubushkin and Edmondson. Like, he wants the guys that he picked up, his guys in the lineup. But if Keefe decides, like, no, you know what, I want to go with a more offensive fourth line and Reeves isn't going to play, like, is he allowed to make that decision? Or, I mean, he just got his contract extension, so I guess he can do whatever he wants. But that's not the kind of thing the Leafscast is privy to. All right, one last position. Are you guys ready?
Oh, no, not this one.
No, this is the negative part of the podcast.
This is the worst part.
That are like the Leaf centers, but the Bruins centers is like the Bruins goalies above our goalies.
That's probably actually a really good way of putting it, Tim. So the Bruins have Ullmark, who won the Vezina Trophy last year and has still had a good season this year, although having an even better season is Jeremy Swayman, who I think will probably be their game one starter. And well, either way, you kind of, they have a far and away advantage in goal. And even if we start torching one of them, they'll just put the other one in net. And you flip that the other side for what we have, and we have Samsonov, who we already talked about a little bit on this pod, of the ups and downs. And even recently, like, he's had a few shaky starts. And Joseph Wall has looked real shaky since coming back from his injury. Jones looked solid tonight against Tampa Bay. He made a lot of great saves. We just don't have we don't have the goaltending. Like, you any way you cut it, like, the advantage is in Boston. However, last year we saw Samsonov play very well, and he won us that series against Tampa Bay. So he has it in him, and I don't know if I would say that I'm anywhere near confident enough to say that goaltending is going to be an advantage for us. I would say it's more likely it's going to be our downfall, but I would say that I'm comfortable enough to think that our goaltending is sufficient enough that we can win with this goaltending.
I think that's the exact same thing that the Boston is saying about their centers, of like, yeah, our centers are good enough that our goaltending is going to get us through.
That's probably fair, though. Like, that's probably a fair statement for Boston to make. Like, it's good enough. They have elite wingers. They have great top 2 defensemen and elite goaltending, and that's going to be what gets them through.
The difference, though, is that, like, if I had to roll the dice on goaltending or centers, goaltenders are way more inconsistent than forwards. So maybe I would pick the forwards, but there's nothing that makes you more nervous than having the second best goaltending in a service.
I don't know. I really worry here. I mean,
well, the thing about, like, you look as recently as last year, and Bobrovsky sucked all year long, and then all of a sudden in the playoffs, he decided that he was going to become on the case Bobrovsky again, and he just shut the door and had like a .940 save percentage against us and all that. And in round 1, Vasilevsky was not world beater Vasilevsky. He was just like average Joe V. Like, it was anything. So, like, it's you're right, Tim. It's a highly volatile position, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if a week from now we see Samsonov is out dueling either Swayman or Allmark, whoever they go with, that their goaltending is faltering and they're letting in bad saves, or bad goals rather, and Samsonov standing on his head making these acrobatic saves. It could happen. Like, goaltending's so weird like that. He got waived. Samsonov was waived this year, and look at him now. Like, it's just the craziest position. So it's not the kind of thing that's going to doom us. It's just the kind of thing that could doom us. We've experienced the goalies standing on their heads stealing a few playoff series from us. Quite a few times, actually, in recent years.
I'm nervous about this goaltending, and I want to ask you guys, what do you think is more likely? At the end of the series, we say the Leafs got goal lead, or the Leafs had sub 900 save percentage by Ilya Samsonov. What's more likely?
You know what? I want to be the positive Leaf fan here, but it's hard to bet against. Like, they have the most recent Vezina winning goaltender on their side, and we have the most recent waived goaltender on our side. It's just hard to bet against it. So if I had to say which is more likely, it's that we get goalied.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I've watched us get goalied almost every year in the playoffs, but, you know, last year, Andre Vasilevsky, arguably one of the best goaltenders in the league as far as in the playoffs goes, wasn't Andre Vasilevsky, and we won. So anything could happen. So a bit of background on the Boston goalies, though. It is that they do have a bit of drama there, like, between the two of them. So, like, Allmark has definitely been hotter coming down the stretch. Like, he's had 935 since the trade deadline, and Swayman's only had like an 884. So it's like Allmark's clearly ahead there, but like Swayman has started the last 2 games against the Leafs when they played Boston and only let in like 1 goal each time. So it's like,
yeah, but you know who was in the Leafs net for the last 2 times we played Boston? It was Joseph Wall, and he was not good at all. So no. I don't think, at the end of the day, I don't think it matters who they play. They're going to have very good goaltending, and that's why we have a 69 goal scorer, Austin Matthews, and a second line of Nylander, Tavares, Marner. Put it in ink, Tim, because those are elite forwards, and it's just whether or not our forwards are going to be able to break through.
I'm just saying, I hope we light it up on game 1, and they have all this drama about which goaltender they go, do they switch or not. Like, usually it's us having the drama, but I would like one other team to have drama for once.
Oh, that would be amazing to win game 1. We've done that before against Boston, right? In the playoffs? I think 2019 we won game 1. I
like winning all the games.
It was so long ago. Well, I just remember being in your guys' living room watching David Pasternak have like a hat trick, and they beat us 7-2, I think, in game 1 time. So anything but game 2.
The refs, I remember that game. Not
good. The refs. Tim's like 5 years ago. The refs.
Tim's like wearing the same shirt that he was that day.
Oh, that was the game that he got suspended out of.
Really?
Where the refs totally lost control of the game.
Yeah, no, you're right. That one does stand out.
I remember.
Wait, that was the Kadri game?
Yeah. One of them.
Okay.
One of the Kadri games.
I trust you.
All right. Two questions. What needs to happen for the Leafs to win this series? Or what needs to not happen so we don't lose this series? It might be the same answer for both, but what is the thing that either needs to happen or needs not to happen for us to come out on top?
I think if we score more goals than the other team.
All right, I'm gonna stop you right there.
Go to me,
Steven.
Go to me, Ryan. I think the Leafs need to be the more
You're up,
physical
Steven.
team. I think in past times that we've played Boston and ultimately lost to them, they have broken us mentally through breaking us physically. They get out there, they kick the crap out of the Leafs, like physically, and the Leafs try to start, responding back physically. The Leafs start taking penalties, and that's how the series goes. And it's gone that way every time. Where even though we've lost to them, the last handful of times we've played Boston, I have loved that the Leafs have handed them their lunch. I don't really know what that saying is. Handed them their...
Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed that piece, because you know what we did in those games? We went 0-4.
Okay, well, Tim's out here like, we got to score. Settle down. That I think is going to be a factor. We need to break them physically to break them mentally. We've outlined the other advantages that the Maple Leafs have, but we're all smart enough to know that you really can't count on a lot of these stats that we can hang our hat on in the regular season in the playoffs. Like, sure, the Leafs have had an excellent power play all series. I'm not confident there's going to be the number of calls. And we had an excellent power play against a bunch of ham and eggers. We're going up against Boston. Like, that's something that we can do. We can lay the wood. That's a saying.
I think the Leafs, one, they need to find a way to stop David Pastrnak. I know our penalty kill has been a little rough the past little while, but Boston is going to be getting power plays. I forget if it was what year was particularly egregious, but like, we cannot let them get multiple power play goals a game and expect to win the series. So if the Leafs are going to win, they're going to have to find a way to... I have no faith in them staying out of the box. The referees will roll the dice and throw the makeup calls. But we do have to find a way to at least neutralize David Pastrnak.
Yeah, I think you're right, Tim. Like, I think of all the other times we played Boston, and coming out of those series, if you were to say who are the best players that year, it was always Pastrnak, Marchand, Bergeron. Like, those are the best three players. And they don't have Bergeron anymore, but like, you can't let these guys just walk all over you. And I mean, I guess I was kind of thinking similar to you, Tim, but I was just going to say play team defense. Like, I think that our offense is going to come through. Hopefully it's going to be enough to beat their very impressive goaltending. But they have some pretty impressive goal scorers on their side. Like, Pastrnak is something else out there. And Marchand's going to dial it up to 11 when the playoffs start. So we've seen it at parts of the season. I think specifically that time where Riley was suspended, and then our team just became like the best defensive team in the league, and everyone's the forwards are covering the D, and everyone's just coming back. And like, if we could just figure out how to do that in the playoffs, like, we need that. Like, our D aren't great, our goaltending's not great. Like, we need to really buy into this to shut them down, and then our elite forwards are gonna get us over the top elsewhere. So that's, I think, where I'm at. But I do think you're right, Steven. I think we will be more physical than Boston. I think Brad Treliving has made sure of that. And you saw that work for Florida last year. They beat Boston down. They were super physical, and they ended up winning that series. So it could be a mixture of all things.
I think the underlying piece that's important that we don't always see from this Leaf team, they have to want it more than Boston. They have to be like, in the little moments, they have to hustle and skate and stuff. And I know this is like basic peewee hockey stuff, but we've seen so many Leaf games where they just get outworked.
Yeah.
I want to see the Leafs top players win puck battles, skate, and I want them to see it wanting to win as much as the Leafscast wants them to win.
Tim, no one wants it more than us. You know that. That's a big ask.
That's the bar.
Not possible.
I will be disappointed unless if they meet that bar.
All right. Well, let's get down to the final question here, and that's the most important question. It's series prediction.
Ooh.
I want to hear from both of you. The answer must start with Leafs in, and then I want to hear a number. Because if you say anything other than that, you're literally fired from my life. So Leafs in, and then a number. What do you think? Tim, I asked you to go first last time and I regretted it immediately, but I'm gonna go back to the well here.
So there's a big part of me that just says the automatic answer is 7 games because I've watched the Leafs in the playoffs every single year. But last year, we won in 6 games, which is very exciting. And I know I've been like maybe a little more negative on about some aspects of the Leafs, but it's because we've all just skipped over. It's like, well, because Austin Matthews is great, and then talk about all the other holes that this ship that is the Leafs has. But Austin Matthews is a significant factor. He is the highest powered gun in the race.
Big gun.
The big gun.
Gun in the race. What kind of race are we
It's the
talking
big
about
gun. He
here,
meant to
Tim?
say the big gun. He's quoting Iron Man 2.
That's what I meant to say.
Okay, we'll let you have it.
Anyways, the Leafs do have firepower. This series is pretty close to a 50-50, but I think that's on paper. I think the Leafs do have the better team. Execution wise, we'll see, but I think the framework is there. But Leafs to win at home, win 6 games. Just follow the template of last year.
All right, Leafs in
Maybe
6,
not,
Tim.
actually.
I'm a big
we had
fan.
some rough games last year.
We had won on the road in 6 last year. We actually had home ice advantage.
Yeah.
But Leafs in 6. That's pretty bold, Tim. Not saying Leafs in 7. It's kind of been our thing against Boston. So
We should have won in 6 games in 2019.
All right,
we were up 3-2.
he's still bitter. What do you got, Steven?
That's why I can't pick it, Tim. I can't. Easter, was it Easter? I think it was Easter. Easter Sunday, 2019. And the Leafs lose at home in Game 6 and have to go back to Boston for Game 7. Ryan, you can't ask me to pick that the Leafs are going to win in 7 because they'd have to win in Boston. And I think I mostly fear nothing except for TD Garden in Game 7 in the playoffs. I don't know, though. Maybe those fans are getting older. I'm going to go Leafs in 6. I'll go 6. Easter was early this year. It's not Easter Sunday. Yeah, I think the Leafs win at home. You just can't go back to Boston for Game 7. You can't. And I'd be foolish to think that the Leafs are going to win it in any less than 6, considering the fact that we did not beat them one time this season. If the Leafs roll Domi,
That's the key,
Matthews, Bertuzzi on the first line, it can be Leafs in 4. But otherwise,
here's the
it's Leafs in
thing.
6.
I
That's the
am
key.
not going to say Leafs in 6 because that would be agreeing with both of you. And like Tim, I have principles, so that's not going to fly. But we see it every year. I mean, we see it every year in the regular season. We see Austin Matthews just trounce over the other team. Just we win this game because we have Austin Matthews on our team, and he is just better than any other player on the other team by a wide margin. And then you also have guys like Nylander and Marner and Tavares and Riley and these great supporting cast around him. And I just think that this year, more than most other years, the Leafs are either going to be the best team ever or just crumble and fall and be completely useless. So I was putting some thought. Tim, I was talking to our mother earlier today about this. And
What's her pick?
I actually didn't ask her what her pick was. I probably should have done that. What are you going to do? But I'm going to say Leafs in 5. The Toronto Maple Leafs will win in 5 games. And the number one reason for this is because that would make the series 4-1. I think that sounds rather fitting for slaying the dragon here. And Steven, you and I, we both agreed before the game when we figured out we were playing Boston that we would rather play Boston than Florida. I like the idea of just it's the big bad Bruins. They have so much history between us and the playoffs over our lives, and I just would love to beat them. So series lead of 4-1, beat them in 5
Slay the
in
dragon.
TD Gardens. That's what I'm going. I think it's going to go the exact same as round 2 last year against us. We're going to win the first 3 games. We're going to lose game 4 and then kick them in 5. That's what I think.
Do you think the Leafs win Game 1? What do you guys think? Saturday night, I'm guessing.
In Boston. It's hard because are the Leafs gonna get up? Are they gonna be able to flip the switch and say this is playoff hockey? I don't know. I won't be betting any money on these games. I'm smarter than that.
They look tired tonight, man.
No, I think they lose Game 1, win Game 2, win Game 3 and 4, lose Game 5, win Game 6. There, you happy? There's what's gonna happen.
How could you predict that they lose Game 1, Tim? You're such a jerk.
They need a wake-up call. The Leafs need a wake-up call sometimes, and they're going to fight people. I'm just looking at the list and say, okay, who's going to get suspended? Because you know someone's going to get suspended.
Big X factor, Tim, you kind of referred to it, and it's a kind of a sucky life that we've been living over the past decade, but there's a chance that someone's just going to get injured at freak play and they're gone or suspended. Like we saw it with Bunting. Tavares goes down, Kadri goes down, Muzzin, he's out. We've had a long history of things just don't go well in the playoffs, partially to bad luck and partially to hot heads. Maybe this is the year that things get flipped and the league finally decides that they're tired of the rat and they suspend Brad Marchand for licking our players or something. So we'll see if something like that. Hopefully, I just want to win, man. I'm so tired of losing with these asterisks. We lost, but Bunting was an idiot or something. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I'm looking at tickets. Are we going or not?
You paying or you not? If anyone out there wants to fund us to go to a Leafs playoff game, we'll give you a shout out on the pod. How's
Let me talk to my financial advisor. Tim, can you stay on the call after this?
I got you covered.
All right,
okay.
That puts us at just over an hour here, so I think we better wrap it up.
All right, fine.
Guys, our next podcast will be after Game 1. They will have started.
Yes.
Did I tell you? I told you. Haley told me there's some dumb thing we got to do on Sunday. I can't even remember. I was like, I'm either going to be in a horrible mood or the best mood of my life at whatever this event is.
You might be.
Get ready for. Yeah, come on, man.
It's
all right. Well,
Tim is right though. We are planning on doing a post-game pod. Hopefully every game we'll try and get something out there. So be watching and go Leafs go.
Oh, we'll have something out after every game.
I like it.
It may just be a reel of us moaning and crying and screaming. But
Tim, tell me the Leafs are going to win Game 1. I don't like this. Tell me they're going to win Game 1.
The Leafs are going to win the series.
Okay.
You got to keep hope, Ryan. The Leafs love testing your faith.
Boy.
But I love to be proven wrong. Prove me wrong!
End it.
Just